What up, everybody? How you doing? Happy Tuesday. Yes, I know we're late. Fashionably late. That's my fault. I worked another 12-hour shift today, so you got to forgive me. I'm a little sluggish, but appreciate you guys and girls tuning in to another edition of Giants Collective. As always, if you could do us a favor, hit the thumbs up. That helps out huge. I think we're at 7,130 for subscribers, so that's awesome. Hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends about it. You can check us out wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, of course, Apple. If you listen to us on Apple and leave a 5-star review, that would help out greatly. You can also check us out on TikTok and Instagram. So obviously the Combine happened this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And a guy that really stood out was Sonny Styles. And I'm going to give credit to Adriana because Adriana was the first one on this show, from what I remember. Now, my memory's fuzzy, but I'm pretty sure she was the first one to mention how great Sonny Styles was, or that he's going to be a beast, and she was really intrigued by him, thought he'd be a really good prospect. And we always start with the woman first. What were your thoughts? What were your takeaways from Sonny Styles' performance in the Combine?
Sold. Draft him at 5. I'm on board. I love it. Also, I don't know if you guys saw this. There was an interview during the Combine with him and 2 other guys, and very well-spoken, intelligent, the whole thing. And he was asked, I didn't know his real name is actually Alex. And he was asked about why he goes by Sonny. And I guess when he was a kid, he was hot-headed and had a short temper. And his dad was calling him Sonny after the guy in The Godfather. So we got ourselves another Paisan, another Italian. Yes. I'm like, could you, I'm not like, I don't want Tommy DeVito back, but like, could you imagine him and Tommy DeVito in the locker room? But we got some other Paisans. It'll be fine. I think he would fit right in with New York. I love everything about him. I think the Godfather story is like the icing on the cake. To me, there's nothing not to love about him. And, it would be the first time since 1984 that we drafted a linebacker in the first round. And if he is half as good as Carl Banks was, then we're in good hands.
Yeah, that was the first year I started watching the Giants. Was a long time ago. It's funny that one of the guys I work out with, his name is Sonny, and he's an Italian guy. He's a younger guy. He's like 24. Whatever he is, he's like, less than half my age. It always makes you feel old, all these young guys in the gym. He looks, I'm not lying to you. I keep telling them, dude, I need a picture of you and me. He looks just like Tommy DeVito. I'm not bullshitting. He looks identical to Tommy DeVito. It's freakish. He didn't even know who he was. I'm like, you don't know what Tommy DeVito is? I'm like, he looked just like him. Anthony, what were your takeaways from Sonny Styles?
Sonny Styles is awesome. He's an absolute freak athlete, and he's really humble as well. I was watching or listening to the Rich Eisen show, and Rich Eisen shared another story about Sonny Styles where he was in one of the hotels. I guess he was staying in a hotel, but Rich Eisen had an NFL Network colleague staying in the same hotel, and he went up to him and said, like, hey, congrats, what an amazing workout. And Sonny Styles literally asked him, really, did you think I did that well? Like, he was so humble and he was so hard on himself because he thought he should have ran a faster 40 and done it even more. Like, brother, you just broke the linebacker vertical jump record. Yes, you had an amazing combine, but he was literally like, I'm not so sure about it, because he wanted to run 4.4 flat, I think, and he ran 4.46. Okay, 4.46 is pretty damn good, I think. So Sonny Styles is ridiculous. What an athlete. And also on the Sonny part of his name, there's also a Dante Corleone in this draft class. Could you imagine drafting Sonny Styles and Dante Corleone in the same class? How cool would that be? So now you've got Sonny, you've got Corleone, and if you bring Tommy DeVito back on your practice squad, you got 3 mobsters right there. It's like Goodfellas all over again. So that's what I want to see happen this offseason. I think that would be a lot of fun. But Sonny Styles, outside of what he did on the Combine, the more that I watch him, the more all-22 film, whatever I turn on, the more enamored by him I get. I really think he is one of the 3 best players in this draft class, regardless of position. He's got incredible coverage skills and instincts. His football IQ is absurd. His ability to communicate shows up all the time when you watch him play, and just knowing that he wore the green dot and made that conversion from safety to linebacker, it's so great because you could see the safety skills in him while he's playing, because he's so good in coverage and he's just so instinctual like a safety, but he's doing it from the linebacker spot. I think that's amazing that he came to college as a safety, but he just kept growing and growing. And now all of a sudden he's this big 6'5", 240 185-pound prototype linebacker who still moves like a safety. He's a very rare talent. People compare him to Fred Warner. I think it's justified. And I'm just dreaming of this kid wearing Giants blue.
You got me salivating, Anthony, over with the Fred Warner comp. Like, I would die to have Fred Warner on the New York Giants. He's like one of my favorite players in the NFL to watch play on a week-to-week basis. And I like most Giant fans, have been dying to get a legitimate, like, long-term inside linebacker on this team for a really long time. Like Baddog said, we haven't drafted one since Carl Banks. His combine was insane. Like you said, he broke the vertical jump. He ran a 4.46 40, which I think in this specific combine was tied with Reese, I think, for the best 40 time among any linebacker in this specific draft. And, you know, he's more of a prototypical inside linebacker. So I think it's even more impressive for him to run the time that he did. I looked up, historically speaking, I think Simmons has the highest, but as we all know, Simmons isn't really a traditional inside linebacker. So he ran about a 4.39 or a 4.4. I can't recall. But yeah, I mean, he blew it up at the combine, and I think he asserted himself as a no doubt top 5-6 pick in this year's draft. I think before that, you saw some mock drafts where he was going mid-teens. Even I saw some as late as 20 to the Dallas Cowboys. That's not happening after the combine that he had. And it's funny, I think I saw Jeremiah say this. I don't remember. One of the draft insiders said that the 5 best players in this year's draft aren't players outside of, I guess, the quarterback at number 1, aren't players that would project to be premium positions, right? Tackle, edge. So it may just be a draft where the Giants say, screw it, we're going to take the best available player. And Sonny Styles certainly may be that guy, and it certainly would fill a need. And based on what Harbaugh is saying, like we're taking a linebacker. It's just a matter of, do we do it in the draft, or do we sign or trade for one in free agency? So we'll see how they build the team. And, I'm sure we'll talk about the running back spot as well, because I know there's been rumors about that. But I would love Sonny Styles. Right now, today, if you ask me who I would want the Giants to draft, I think it would be Styles.
It's because I heard rumors that Bobby Okereke is probably going to get released. And I've been saying that for a long time, and it makes sense, okay? You're going to save $9 million. He's not the future. When I'm looking at the guys that the Giants should release or trade, and we talk about Kayvon Thibodeaux, it's not because I don't like them or I don't think they're good players. I look at, are they going to be a part of the future? And if they're not, you want to get rid of them and save your money and bring someone in that you think is going to be the future, at least the immediate future, that's going to cost a lot less money. Now, yeah, the 5th overall pick is going to make some money, but I don't know how much the 5th overall pick, it's not as much as they used to make. I know that. I don't think it'd be the same as Okereke, but whenever you can get guys in rookie contracts that are the core of your team, that's how you win championships, when you're not paying those guys a lot. And then, because Anthony's mentioned, you don't draft starters. You want to, well, your top picks obviously are, but you need that for depth. You want your best. You don't draft for need, is what he was saying, right? You don't draft for need. That's what your free agents are for. So when you can get a really good young core of players and rookie contracts, then you can add these parts of need, and you can spend money because you'll have money to save, which is why, Chris, you mentioned the quarterback being on the rookie contract is the most important, because they take up 15 to 18% of your cap when they get paid. It's much tougher to build around that guy when he's making all that money. So I'm intrigued what they're going to. I do think Bobby Okereke is going to get released. Now, my question to you guys is, because he had such a big combine, does that mean he could even go before the Giants pick? Because we saw Trayvon Walker, right? Last year, Trayvon Walker, it was last year, right? Or no, it was the year Thibodeaux was drafted. God, it was like a few years ago. My mind is gone today. But he was not supposed to be the first overall pick. There was talk about Kayvon Thibodeaux being first overall pick. There was a lot, but Walker blew up the combine so big that he ended up going number 1 overall. And we've seen guys, I'm not saying Styles would be that guy that gets overdrafted, but that guy has put too much stock into the underwear Olympics. We saw John Ross go 9th overall because he ran a 4.22 That guy is not a good receiver at all. He was a fast receiver, but not a good receiver. But is it possible that the Jets say, I don't want Arvell Reese, I want Sonny Styles?
Yeah. I don't know if it'll be the Jets, but I definitely could see a scenario where he goes before we pick in this year's draft for sure. I don't know. I'm probably 50-50 on whether or not he's there when we pick. I think there's a legitimate possibility he could go before we pick.
I think there's a really good chance he could get sniped 1 pick before the Giants by the Tennessee Titans, in fact, because if you look at Robert Saleh's history, of course, I just made that connection to Fred Warner. Salah's going to take over that Titans defense as the new head coach, and he's going to want an elite middle linebacker. He's going to want a talent that he can build that defense around, and he might look at Sonny Styles as that perfect fit to kind of replicate that defense that he's had so much success. Obviously, when he was with the San Francisco 49ers, coaching Fred Warner and all of the other great linebackers that they had, but even when he was with the New York Jets, they invested a lot at that linebacker spot because that's what Robert Saleh's defense requires, is an elite inside linebacker. So I could totally see him going number 4. I could even see him going 2, 3, or 4. I think all of those teams are in a position to kind of go BPA because they have so many holes, and Sonny Styles might be just such an attractive prospect to all of those teams in front of the Giants. I even think you can make the argument maybe the Giants should try and flip something to go up to 3 and take Sonny Styles if that's the guy that they really want and get ahead of the Tennessee Titans so that Robert Saleh doesn't take the linebacker from out from underneath them. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it before. If you really like a guy, you go up and get him. It'll be very interesting what they do. I do think whatever the Giants do, it will be BPA. That's really what on their board. Maybe not the overall board, but on their board, whoever they consider to be the best player available is who they take, because they do have a lot of holes to fill. We discussed Caleb Downs a lot on this show about how Harbaugh really likes him. And Anthony, you mentioned before the show, there was an injury concern about his like a partially torn meniscus in his knee. But then they said the medicals came back and they were clear. So, I mean, you know, who knows what the hell is going on with that, but it'll be interesting. Here's another thing, though, and I just read this before we went live. So if Sonny Styles picked, you know, they make a big deal about the numbers that they end up having. Did you guys see that Abdul Carter is going to change his number?
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think his number is?
I would never buy a jersey of a rookie ever.
No.
All the time.
Between him and Neighbors, and now I'm like, Dart. I mean, he's probably going to change his, especially if Banks.
Not that you'd want a Banks jersey at this point, but he changed his number 2 after his first year, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now everyone's joking too that like if OBJ comes back, Jalen Hyatt has to give up 13, which I don't.
Let's just give up Jalen Hyatt. Let's just give up Jalen Hyatt. Just give up Jalen Hyatt. The number is going to be free. We can just give him up. But what number do you think he goes with?
58. I think Okereke gets cut and he takes 58.
That's
he has an affinity for playing under a legend's number. He wanted LT's number. He wanted Sims's number.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Banks is a legend, 58. I think he's going to want that number.
Yeah.
Good call.
What about 91? That's not retired, is it?
No, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
That's the one I suggested in the summer. I thought that one made a lot of sense.
Yeah. So we'll see what he does. But he said it was a fun time, 51. And anyone that has those 51 Abdul Carter jerseys, sorry, because it's not going to be him anymore. Speaking of linebackers or edge rushers, there are a lot of Kayvon Thibodeaux trade rumors out there. And again, I think we covered this long before these were rumors, that it would just make sense for the Giants to move on from him because we don't feel like he's going to be part of the future. Anthony, what do you take out of the rumors?
It makes sense. You know, I said it last week, caught a little heat from the chat when I said it, but now here we are a week later and it's coming to fruition. The Giants are not only taking calls on Thibodeaux, but it sounds like they're actively shopping him, according to the reports that I was reading. So I just think it makes sense. When you look at Kayvon Thibodeaux, he's a player that just has failed to reach his potential with the Giants. And unfortunately now he's the 3rd player on the depth chart at a position that has 2 starters. Yeah, I understand that the rotational pass rusher is crucial and you want a surplus of pass rushers. Absolutely. Especially after watching the Seattle Seahawks win that Super Bowl with that bevy of defensive linemen that they had. But you're talking about Kayvon Thibodeaux as a guy who's 25, who's still getting better, but needs an opportunity to hit that next level. He's not going to get that opportunity here, and he's going to want to leave and find that opportunity elsewhere next offseason in free agency. So he's not going to be around long term. It's taking up $15 million in cap space right now just to keep him on the roster. And he's coming off a year where he only played in 10 games, had 2.5 sacks. And this is a pattern for him. He's only had 1 healthy season. It was in 2023. Every other year, he's missed at least 4 games due to an injury. So he's often injured. He's not often productive. And while he's still young and he's good at a few things and he's an ascending player, I don't want to just get rid of a young ascending player for nothing. You're already drafted over him with Abdul Carter. I think you have to take whatever value you can before he walks in free agency, inevitably next offseason, and you get nothing in return.
Chris, what do you take away from that? I'll be right back.
I disagree with the last point that Anthony made. I don't think I would just trade him for anything. If that's what you were insinuating, I don't know if it was.
No, not anything. I think I said don't trade him for just anything.
Take anything that you can. There would be. Oh, okay. I mean, I misinterpreted what you said.
There should be a price floor for sure. I think right now the reports are that they're looking for a third, but they might settle for a fourth. A fourth is like, I don't know, not.
Yeah, I think the fourth is where I consider not do. I think I have to get it personally. If I'm trading Kayvon before the year starts, I think I have to get a third. Otherwise, I go into the season with him and hope he plays relatively well, and then look to trade him in season. But I think we are all in agreement that ideally, at some point this year, if you don't feel Kayvon's going to be with this team long term, which I'm leaning he won't be at this point, I think the Giants are able to trade him for something. It's just a matter of, is it better to do it prior to the year beginning or, in year if he's playing relatively well? Where can you get more value? So, yeah, I agree with what you said, Anthony. I think if the deal is right, I would trade him. I wouldn't just trade him to trade him, but if it's a third round or better, I think the Giants probably do trade him preseason. Or maybe they could get creative with a player for player trade. I did read the rumor about Tremaine Edmonds. I think he's a trade candidate that the Giants were looking at, a middle linebacker. So who knows? Maybe they get creative that way. But yeah, I certainly think, especially with the rumors that you're hearing, that the Giants are at least exploring opportunities to trade Kayvon.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't trade him. If you can only get a fourth right now, to me, I would not trade him. I would think you're just better off waiting, starting him a little bit, see how the season goes. If they were really getting that many phone calls about him last year, I mean, I'd love to know what the offer actually was. I mean, he was playing really well. My guess is maybe it was a third rounder. We know Joe is like this tough guy negotiator, so I don't really know how that process went down, but maybe they could get, a third or potentially a second if he really plays well in the first 6 weeks of the season. I don't really know what their plan would be around that, but I would think it's worth risking that as opposed to just giving him up for a fourth right now.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I think the big thing with Kayvon, I don't even know if it's like getting value in return for him. I think it's the $15 million. I think that's the biggest selling point. Yeah, you don't want to trade him for like a 7th round pick. I mean, I understand that because he's worth more than that. But I think the money with Kayvon Thibodeaux is the big selling point. Because again, if he's not going to be here and you in the future and you hold on to him and you don't get anything for him, then everybody's going to be pissed off. Why didn't Joe Shane trade him? Well, I guess why didn't Joe Shane trade him? It doesn't matter what happens. Whether Joe Shane is, I am the GM. I am the GM, Pat. Whether he's the GM or not, he's going to take the blame because people want to give Joe Shane all the blame anyway. I just think $15 million is a lot, and they could spend it in different areas. If they want to go after Tyler Linderbaum, and there's going to be a lot of suitors for that guy, and they want to pay him a lot of money, then you're going to have to free up some cap space. And that's big money that you're freeing up there for a guy that's probably not going to be, he won't be here past 2026 regardless. So it just makes sense to move him for something. And again, we talk about Sonny Styles, you talk about inside linebackers. I think you should just draft Sonny Styles. You're going to cut Okereke, you're going to save $9 million. And you know where that money goes? Nakobe Dean. I'm saying it every damn show. Nakobe Dean's market value is $7.9 million. Get that guy in here. He praised Jackson Dart. Let's freaking take a guy from the Eagles and just hope he stays healthy. That's a big one with Nakobe Dean. I want that guy in a Giants jersey. I just do. I want to get back at the damn Eagles. You know what I mean? And it'd be nice to have a guy like that could go in there and just have a couple revenge games and kick their ass. That'd be great. But I think Dean is a great player. I think because of his injury history, he is extremely gonna get a friendly, team-friendly deal somewhere. And, he had a career high in sacks last year, even though he missed, 6 games. He's just so good, man. I don't know. I like Nakobe Dean a lot. I'm going to say it every damn show until we get him. I guess I only have a couple more because we'll know by this time next week who the hell we got, right? So, because tampering is March 9th and we do this show March 10th. So it'll be good. But the Giants, man, we've been anticipating a lot of stuff. And obviously anticipate the draft, free agency, all this stuff. We'll know a lot more of what we're going to do in the draft, depending on what we do in free agency. But I'm ready. I think the chat's ready. I think we're all ready to see exactly which direction Aponte and Harbaugh, because it's not just Joe Shane now. It's totally different. There's a lot of different people in the front office, a whole different coaching regime, and a guy that's had more power as a head coach than anybody I can remember as a New York Giants head coach. So it'll be interesting to see which direction we take this team, or they take this team. Another guy that the Giants, and this is recent, there's a lot of running back interest now with the Giants, which to me, again, I don't quite understand. And this should be a John Harbaugh thing, because we know Joe Shane don't value running backs. We know this. We know that he has no value for that. Scatterbo was going to win Rookie of the Year if he didn't get hurt. In my opinion, I love him. He's my favorite Giant. I freaking love Cam Scatterbo. I don't know anybody, if you don't love football, even rivals of the Giants, like, bro, I love Scatterbo. How do you not? And Tyrone Tracy has also been really good for a 5th-round pick. He's been awesome. But if you can get a guy like Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl MVP, to come in here and run behind, if you can go out there and get Linderbaum and you build up your offensive line, and now you have an elite running back with a Cam Scatterbo. How does that grab you, Chris? What do you think about the rumors of them making a run at Kenneth Walker?
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard about it, I wasn't in love with the idea. I still wouldn't use the term love. I don't love the idea of spending.
So you don't want Jeremiah Love either.
No, I don't. I definitely don't want to draft Jeremiah Love at number 5. But I'm not that surprised when you look at Harbaugh's history. They gave Derrick Henry a ton of money. They emphasized the run big time in Baltimore. They run the ball as much as anybody. There's rumors that they're interested in bringing in Linderbaum, who is obviously known for his run blocking much more than the pass blocking. So I think the Giants are clearly steering towards a run-heavy approach for an offense this next year. That's what I think Harbaugh's strategy is going to be. And if you look at his brother Jim, it's the same thing. He drafted a first-round running back, I think his first year with the Chargers. Maybe it was his second year in the draft. So I wouldn't be stunned, with some of the rumors we've heard about if the Giants were to bring in Walker. And I'm okay with it because, and Anthony kind of said at the top of the show, and I've said it before, like, if now's the time, in my opinion, to overspend on, a running back if you want to, or a center if you want to, because you have that quarterback on the rookie deal. This is when you have the opportunity to bring in guys that you feel that could maximize the offense with your rookie quarterback. Once the quarterback gets paid like Lamar Jackson, you no longer could afford the luxury of paying a center, which is why the Ravens are likely going to lose at Tyler Linderbaum. But now would be, I think a strong running game is only going to help Jackson Dart. So I could see the logic behind it if you're Harbaugh in signing a Kenneth Walker based on the Giants' circumstance. And I'll tell you what, he's fun to watch. Those Seattle playoff games I watch, man. And obviously it was the jersey played a factor, but he reminded me of Marshawn Lynch the way that he runs. He runs tough. You pair him with a Scatterbo, and we don't know how healthy Scatterbo is going to be to start the year either. That could be a really good backfield, and then you couple Jackson Dart's legs. So I could see an offense that revolves a lot around the run, and I think that's where Harbaugh's steering this offense as we head into next year.
That's one of. I was going to say Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say Scatterbo will be fine. He's been eating crayons off season.
Well, I was going to say, maybe they know something more than we do about Scatterbo, or they just don't like Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary played a decent amount the last 2 years. I mean, even 2 years ago, he led the team with the most amount of touchdowns and with 4, which is like a joke. But I think they probably just really want a vet in here from the running back perspective, and that's probably their reasoning for it. I don't hate it. I just am so obsessed with them, dealing with the offensive line before they do anything, that I'm like, I don't care if you want to sign Kenneth Walker, but you better sign at least one free agent offensive lineman that's not Tyler Linderbaum. Fill someone in on the right side of the line, and then I can get on board with Linderbaum and with Kenneth Walker. But I just am I know
I agree with you. If you're going to do it, go all the way. Build the identity, get the run blocking center, build around the run, and try to maximize Jackson Dart with that strong run offense going into next year. That's my mindset, at least if they go ahead and do it.
100%.
Anthony, what do you think?
So for Kenneth Walker, it's a move that I would simultaneously love and hate. It's the kind of move that goes against my beliefs of positional value and not overpaying certain positions. But at the same time, I think the NFL has changed a lot over the last couple of years from where we were when the Giants were negotiating with Saquon Barkley. I think the cap has gone up about $50 million since then, something crazy, but running back salaries have not gone up much at all. So you're talking about an upper echelon running back in Kenneth Walker getting as much as Saquon would have when he was resetting the market years ago. This is no longer resetting the market money. This is a drop in the bucket kind of contract now at 10 to 12, maybe even maximum $14 million per season. It's really not a lot. Look at it from this perspective. Wan'Dale Robinson is maybe a top 30 wide receiver in the NFL, top 20 to 30. He's a number 2 guy, and he's going to get $21 million per season, very likely. Or you could pay Kenneth Walker, a number 1 running back and a lead workhorse player, $10 to $12 million per season. So you want to overpay for a number 2 guy or pay significantly less for a number 1 guy at a different position that can be just as impactful for your offense or even more impactful for your offense, honestly. Especially when talking about developing a young quarterback, having a great running game is one of the ways to do that. So I also think the reality of Cam Scadaboo's injury needs to be realized, because not only did he have the dislocation, but he also fractured his ankle too, if I'm not mistaken. So he's recovering from a broken bone, and a dislocated ankle is like 3 torn ligaments at once. That's a devastating injury that some people might retire from. Cam Scadaboo is going to come back and he's going to be fine because he is a crayon-eating beast. He's awesome. But most players, they don't come back from something like that so easy, and the Giants do need insurance in that regard for Cam Scadaboo. So, and also, I don't know if you guys saw this, Cam Scadaboo during one of these live streams that he did recently, or interview, whatever it was, he said that he made a promise to himself before he got drafted that if he ever had a devastating or significant injury, he would just retire. But he said, it happened too soon in my career for me to just go out after 8 games. But even that, the fact that he was questioning whether or not he wanted to keep playing after that, and he said that online, was a little strange to me. Obviously, he's coming back, and they're saying he's coming back strong, and he's doing great in his recovery and rehab. And I'm excited about that. I think everybody knows Scadaboo is like maybe my favorite player on this football team. I really want to see him come back strong, but I don't think he should necessarily prevent you from trying to upgrade at running back, especially considering the bargain that you're going to have here on a guy like Kenneth Walker, who you're paying $12 million per season across 3-4 years. Those cap hits are probably going to be below $10 million. And since you have that young quarterback on the rookie contract, now's the time to bake in those void years, like Chris was saying, especially with the cap going up at least $20 million every single year. By the time we get to the end of Kenneth Walker's contract, the cap is going to go up probably $80 million. And his cap hits with those void years are probably never going to be more than $8 million. It is a drop in the bucket. It is like 5% of the cap space at the most that you're ever going to be allocating to the running back position. So I think it's kind of a bargain now to sign elite running backs in free agency, whereas a couple of years ago, it wasn't a good allocation of resources. I think the landscape has shifted.
And it's kind of similar to the point you brought up, Anthony. I think it was last week or the week prior when you were comparing the contract for Likely, for example, in comparison to a Wan'Dale Robinson. You may get more bang for your buck at a position that's not viewed as his premium. And you can make the same argument for a top-tier running back like a Kenneth Walker in comparison to a Wan'Dale Robinson. It's all a matter of how you want to construct your roster. And I think the league over the last 3 or 4 years, not that I'm saying the running back is completely back to the way it was in the 1990s when every team built around the run, but you look at the top teams in the league, I mean, they run the football. The Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens, Chicago Bears were top 5 in rushing last year. New England Patriots.
Eagles won a Super Bowl. I'm running the football.
So I think the dual threat capability between the quarterback and running back is a huge dynamic in the modern day NFL offense.
Agreed. And again, that's what I'm saying. The landscape is kind of shifting. If you look back on this most recent Super Bowl champion, the Seattle Seahawks, they don't win that Super Bowl without Kenneth Walker. They don't make it to the Super Bowl without Kenneth Walker. That's how critical he was in the postseason and throughout the entire year. He was PFF's number 1 graded. I know PFF grades take them with a grain of salt, but he was the number 1 graded running back in the NFL this past season, Kenneth Walker. He had like something crazy, 77 forced missed tackles. He was a really good football player all year, not just in the playoffs. So the Seahawks don't win the Super Bowl without their star running back. The Eagles definitely don't win their Super Bowl without their star running back. There's definitely been a shift recently in the NFL where the running back position is now one of the most important in the game again.
Jahmyr Gibbs
is contract, Jahmyr Gibbs. Derrick Henry, obviously, James Cook, like all of these guys. It's one of the most important positions now in the NFL again, but the contract values are not matching up with that importance that the position is playing because of all the devaluation that happened years prior. So right now, sign an elite running back because it's coming in at a bargain.
Yeah, not only that, but again, you can push the money forward because the Giants will have a lot of cap space in 2027. And when they were negotiating with Barkley, they'd just given Daniel Jones a major deal, right? $40 million a year. Well, Jackson Dart isn't making $40 million a year. And to your point, Anthony, if you're going to pay Wan'Dale Robinson $21 million, if that's what he's going to go for, you can get you can get more production. You can get two really good players for that price. You can get a Kenneth Walker. And even Isaiah Likely, we talk about him, how he kind of fills that spot. He can be like a slot receiver. You can go even higher than that if you wanted to. Kyle Pitts is probably going to make $10 million a year. So if you got Kenneth Walker for $12 million and Kyle Pitts for $10 million, you're paying $22 million. That's pretty much in essence what you would give Wan'Dale Robinson.
They tagged more production. Did they tag Pitts? I thought
they
I read
did.
that.
They did tag Pitts.
Yeah,
but even still, I really do agree with the point, and I think
I agree.
Point.
Yeah.
Isaiah Likely, Kenneth Walker, Hollywood Brown, all of them combined are probably about $21 to $25 million, which is what you're going to pay for Wan'Dale Robinson. Yeah. I'll take those three impact players over the one WR2 personally. So I think that's a great point, Bad Dog.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, you can get a lot of production from a lot of different players. You can fill a lot of spots and build more depth instead of giving – and I like Wan'Dale, but $21 million, it's not worth it. So you guys kind of sold me on Kenneth Walker because I'm like, another running back. Like, we don't really need it. But, again, Scatterable coming off the injury. Tyrone Tracy, I mean, he's good, but he could be a third string guy. Adriana mentioned Devin Singletary. I forgot he was even on his damn team. I'm being completely
honest. He's not a bad player either, but he's not a guy that you're going to
he's not the future of the Giants.
He's a guy that you can get rid of to upgrade the position. Yeah.
Can pair Walker with Scatterable, well, shit. Now you got something because Scatterable ain't going to have to carry the load. He's not going to have to, touch the ball 30 times a game. He can touch it 15 to 20. He can be your goal line guy. He can be your short yardage guy, or he can be like your every third series guy. And you can use Kenneth Walker as your main guy. And you can also use Tyrone Tracy as a change of pace back. So the Giants would be very deep there. But if we're going to do that, obviously they got to build the line. We need maulers up there. And because if you do sign Kenneth Walker, but you don't have a line to block for him, it's going to be like Barkley, where Barkley can't do jack shit because nobody's blocking for his ass.
You're speaking my language, Bad Dog, and I think it's going to be brother like brother. You look at the Chargers. Everybody in their mother thought they were going to take a wide receiver with that pick. I think it was the year that we drafted Malik Neighbors. They ended up taking Joe Alt. They drafted a running back in the first round the next year. They built their team with a run first identity, even with Justin Herbert at quarterback. I think Harbaugh is going to build this team in a very similar fashion. I'm not telling you we're taking a tackle at 5. We may very well sign a Luminor and then get Linderbaum in free agency. But I think the Giants are going to prioritize the run first approach, and they're going to bulk up that line. And I think I don't know if it'll be Walker, but I think they're going to be bringing in a running back for sure.
Yeah, it's exciting times. We don't usually get these, and I don't know if it's I don't want to say it is kind of exciting, but the anticipation is fucking killing me. I'm ready to see what the hell we do. We got 6 days to do it. So, who knows? Maybe we'll, depending on what the hell is going on, maybe we'll do a special Monday edition. That'd be pretty good if the Giants make some moves. Maybe we could do something like that. I was telling these guys, before the show, I'm on vacation the week after next. It's like I took the wrong freaking week off. I should have taken next week off, but I didn't. So, but I'll tell you what, I'll find at work. I'll find a safe space. I'll find a corner. I'll be on Twitter all freaking day.
I just want to point out this player because I've seen a lot of people bring him up. Justin asked it, and 4 other people brought him up earlier. Obviously, the ties to Nagy make sense. Pacheco, Rutgers guy. But the thing, first off, the guy gets hurt a lot. He's one of my I mentioned earlier before the show started, Fred Warner's one of my favorite players in the league to watch. Pacheco's one of my favorite players in the league to watch. That guy runs with reckless abandon. I love him. But no, I think the injury concerns. I get the ties to Nagy. He'd be a lot more affordable than a guy like Kenneth Walker, but I'd rather swing big at that position if they're going to bring in a free agent.
Everybody's going to be affordable. That's what we brought Donna Ponte in here for.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be affordable. This is not Kevin Abrams' show anymore. So everybody's going to be affordable. Again, just move the money forward. That's all. We don't like we don't ever want to backload contracts, but if you're ever going to do it, it's when you have your rookie quarterback or whatever. You want to get these guys in here. And like I said, next year the Giants have a lot more cap space. So just move it into future years where, like Anthony mentioned, the cap goes up $15 to $20 million every year. So move it forward and see what goes on. So,
and now is the time, as we've said, to get aggressive in free agency and the way that you construct these contracts with the void years, like Anthony said. Like, if you're going to do it, this would be the perfect time. You have the quarterback on the second-year deal. If you believe in Dart, and you got to figure they're going to be aggressive. John Harbaugh is 63 years old. He's not here to twiddle his
he's not here to rebuild.
And so I think the Giants are going to be aggressive, not just this offseason, but probably the following offseason. I think they're going to try to get this team headed down a Super Bowl trajectory as soon as they can.
To quote one of your favorite singers, Chris, Billy Joel, this is the time.
This is the time.
This is the time. Jason, thank you, brother. Appreciate you being a constant supporter of the show. Really appreciate it. Thibodeaux is solid depth for edge room. Trading him for a fourth is absurd. Let him play motivated for a new contract. We need depth, and he is young and ain't worth it. Well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do next year then?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have to trade him at some point. They're not going to pay him, I don't think, and you can't let him walk for nothing. But I do think he's motivated. I think he's excited to play under Harbaugh, and that could be the best thing for both teams, right? Could work out for the Giants if he plays well, and it could be beneficial to Kayvon if they trade him to a team that's willing to pay him more money. I mean, I don't think that the Giants are going to be willing to pay him $15 million, which is probably, the minimum after this year. But he could potentially get even more if he has a really good year. So I think it could only benefit everyone if, assuming he plays well.
I'm just thinking of possibilities as you're talking. Let's just say they elect to keep Kayvon this year and he has a big year, right? It's a contract year. It would make sense that he could have a big year this year. He stays healthy, has 10, 11 sacks. You still may not keep him because, like we've talked about, you have to dedicate a lot of money to Abdul Carter long term. We know he's going to be in the long term. You're paying Burns. But is it possible that if you can't work out a deal with him and you can't trade him for what you feel is fair in season, could you tag him and explore the trade market that way? That way, I think there's options for a guy like Kayvon Thibodeaux. Is that out of the realm of possibility? As we've talked about, we have a ton of cap space. They could get creative next year. Go ahead, Ben.
What is his position? Because if he's an end, he's going to tag us. He's a linebacker. Okay, because who was it that was having a fit saying they were a defensive end, but they were?
It was Micah Parsons, I think, was having that issue a couple of years ago. But because he plays more in a 2-point stance, he'll be listed as a linebacker.
Okay,
but
if he's
then again, that could change. We don't know what the defensive scheme is this year. I'm pretty sure they're going to run more of a 3-4 defense, so he'll be a linebacker, an outside linebacker / edge rusher. But if they do run a 4-3, then he will be a defensive end. But
and he'll make a lot more money getting tagged as a DE as opposed to linebacker.
And I want to just make sure that Karen, because I saw a tag needed to be done by tag. I'm not talking about this offseason, Karen, in my hypothetical. I'm talking about next offseason. Yeah. Could you tag him if he had a big year this year, even if you didn't intend to keep him long term, to be able to potentially trade him if you weren't able to trade him this year, if that was the plan? That's the hypothetical I brought up.
I think one factor, maybe a sad reality to consider, if Kayvon Thibodeaux is on the Giants in 2027, it's because he sucks. It's because he didn't have a good year. Because if he has a good year, someone's going to pay him to be a number one pass rusher. He's going to go get money.
Tag him. We could tag him.
Yeah. You could tag him, sure, and you can maybe try and work out the trade then. But again, the tag is probably what? How much would it be? $30, $40 million?
But if he has that big of a year, somebody's going to be willing to trade him and then give him the contract extension.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm just open to all options. That's all I'm saying.
Possibly. Okay, the tag is possible, but I think realistically, if Kayvon Thibodeaux is on the Giants in 2027 playing for the Giants, it's because he had a bad 2026 season, and now you're signing him to a deal that's worth less than $15 million per year. So if you're a fan thinking, don't trade him because he's going into a contract year and he's about to play great football, well, once he does that, his value is going to elevate past 15 and you're no longer going to be able to afford him. So I just think I also don't think he's going to play enough to get that many sacks. He's the number 3 pass rusher, and Abdul Carter's not going to come off the field. He's only going to get better. Brian Burns at 16.5 sacks
I could see a
last
lot
year.
of packages, though, where they're on the field at the same time, all 3 of them, because as we saw Abdul Carter, they used him a ton. And there's a completely new defensive scheme. I recognize that. But they used him a ton up the middle. Like, I think Kayvon will be on the field more than you think.
The problem with trying to trade him in season, in my opinion, is if the Giants start off, 6-2, you're not trading them, right? Exactly. But if they start off 2-6, then you're fucked if you start 2-6 anyway. Yeah. So I don't know, man. It's just a very interesting situation with Kayvon Thibodeaux, and we're going to find out what they do eventually. But I'm sure somebody's willing to give up, a 3rd round pick. I would think you could get at least a 3rd round pick from, because to all your points, it is a contract year. So wherever he goes, that team is probably sitting there going, okay, we plan on paying him in the future. A team's going to sign him, bring him in the trade thinking they're going to sign him long-term. And maybe they give him a long-term deal after they sign him. Who the hell knows? But they could also be thinking the same thing. This guy's going to fucking crush it this year. So if we can give up a 3rd round pick and we can get a guy that we can sit there and play 75% of the snaps and he can give us 12 sacks, then it might be worth it to a team to explore that. I don't know, man, because the Giants have thought outside the box all year, and they've done stuff that we have never seen them do, and given power to positions or coaching positions we've never seen them do, or bringing a person like Dawn Aponte to run the football operations, which you've all been saying for 2 years. The Giants need somebody to do that. I'm very intrigued about next week. I have
a question. You guys let me know. When we traded for Burns, did the Panthers tag him, or was he on the last year of his deal? I can't recall. I know that we gave him the extension after we traded for him, but was he? Had they tagged? Well,
I think he was tagged. I think he was.
So that would be the exact scenario that I'm talking about as a possibility. Like if Kayvon were to have a year where he would have 10 or 11 sacks and teams would be intrigued by him, like we were intrigued by Brian Burns. I'm just saying that's a possibility that I wanted to bring up. I wouldn't rule that out.
Yeah. Well, but, a lot of people want to crap on Joe Shane. Got to give Joe Shane credit for that one. He gave him a 2nd round pick for Brian Burns. That was pretty damn good. We got to give him his flowers on that one. That was pretty good. Jalen Hyatt, not so much. Evan Neal, not so much. But like I said, to me, I feel like Joe Shane's going that way, and I only feel like the people they brought in are going to help Joe Shane. I refuse to give up on Joe Shane. Maybe I'm just fucked up. I am, but I don't know, man. I am. I can't. I don't know, man. I don't know why I believe in this guy. I just do. I don't understand it. Like I said, maybe it's because he eats Uncrustables and drinks Starbucks. I don't know what the hell my problem is with Joe Shane. I don't know. Maybe it's because he kind of resembles Eli to me. I don't know what the hell it is. Joe Shane, don't make a fool out of me. I do that good enough on my own, Joe. Do a good job this year. I think he will. I think John Harbaugh is going to help him out. I really do.
Also, I don't know if you guys have seen what's gone on with the Colts, but I think that Daniel Jones's agent deserves a goddamn award, because the fact that he has been able to consistently push 2 different teams now, that his client deserves $40 million a year. I mean, you want to talk about giving Joe Shane credit. Look, the Colts were in basically the same situation. Now, they ended up tagging him for $36 or $37 million guaranteed, which is kind of crazy. But I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of like, maybe Daniel Jones's agent just deserves a lot of the credit here. And I know everyone was like, Joe Shane's the worst GM ever for the Daniel Jones deal and the Saquon Barkley thing. But I'm just like, maybe his agent is just like hypnotizing people and just like got it figured out. I don't know. The guy's fucking smart.
I'm gonna tell you what. I actually think it was a good move by the Colts to transition tag. It was actually the first time it was used by a quarterback in. I read it was like 20 years. It was a long time that they've used the transition tag. I thought it was a good, because the reality of the matter is this: the quarterback position it's supply and demand. Like every team is looking for a quarterback. Look at what Malik.
And there's none in this year's draft.
Malik Willis is rumored to be getting a ridiculous amount of money. I think what the Colts did was smart, because had Jones not gotten hurt, Jones was going to get a ridiculous amount of money. He was going to get like $45-50 million over 5 years. That's where it was trending before he got hurt. Whether you agree that they should have done it or not, that's what was going to happen, in my opinion, at least. And after the injury, if you, obviously you don't feel comfortable doing that, if I'm a Colts fan, I like what they did. You give him the transition tag, you let him set his own market, and if the Colts want to keep him, they can match it, and I'm sure they will, because I don't think many teams are going to be willing to give him more than $35 to $40 million a year because he's coming off the injury. So I actually thought the Colts made a good move there with that transition tag.
Is Daniel Jones's agent the same as Kirk Cousins' agent? Because I always thought Kirk Cousins' agent deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. Because he got tagged. How many times did Washington tag him before he got $180 million from Atlanta?
We always, and I get it, because Daniel Jones is not a quarterback that you look at and you're like, he's going to win your Super Bowl. Although Sam Darnold, people viewed him the same way a couple of years ago. But the quarterback position is so thin, and teams are always so desperate for the position, and that's why they always get paid so much.
Yeah. The transition tag was the right decision, though, for sure. It's both things are true. His agent is an absolute beast, and
great.
also the Colts handled it the right way. The problem with the Giants, when they were in this exact same situation, Joe Shane didn't want to pay the running back, so he was bidding against himself for the quarterback. He should have put the transition tag on him, allowed Jones to go out there and find his market, and not just overpay him.
I get what you're saying, Anthony, and in hindsight, that would have been the better approach. I will defend Shane a little bit in terms of the transition tag. I think had the Giants transition tag Jones in that offseason, it was much more likely another team would have driven up the price, because he wasn't coming off an injury. He was coming off. They
could have matched it at the end of the day. If they really want to pay him, they could have matched it at the
end
end of the day.
You're right.
And you're right in hindsight, but I did say that in the moment for sure. And I was so adamant about tagging him.
Whether it was the transition tag or the traditional tag, they definitely should have tagged.
Yeah. Well, I was so adamant to tag him back then. I'm happy that the Colts have learned the lesson. Unfortunately, they had to learn it from the Giants, though, which sucks.
But I remember talking. We talked to Entertainah, and the problem was the Giants. They tried to sign Saquon. Like I would get in arguments, like debates at Giants fans. I'll say Shane didn't try. I'm like, he tried in 2022. Barkley did not want to. I say this all the time. Barkley didn't want to be here. He didn't want. I don't blame him. But that is the reality of the situation. If Barkley really wanted to be a Giant, he would have signed that contract during the bye week of 2022, and then the Giants could have figured out what the hell they wanted to do with Daniel Jones. The problem was they tagged Barkley because Barkley wouldn't sign an extension. You can't tag two players. And after they made the playoffs and Jones probably had the best year of his career, it was hard to just let him walk when you had the 24th overall pick, because how are you going to replace him? Were you just going to let Tyrod Taylor be your starter? They were in a shitty spot that year. That was just, I don't know. I don't know how else.
We can all say in hindsight, they should have signed Baker Mayfield. They should have done this. But at the end of the day, you don't have the power of hindsight if you're Joe Shane. So I always knew Daniel Jones was coming back, because if you let him go, he could look like the Vikings do right now. That general manager lost his job because, at least partially, because of how good Daniel Jones looked, when he went to the Indianapolis Colts. So I get it. Now, I'm thinking this back, Anthony. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was an option. Now, the Giants would have never done it because it would have tied up their cap space so much. But you can use both tags, right? If you use the traditional tag and the I think you could use both.
Yeah, I think you can.
I think you can use both. So they did have the option to give the transition tag to Jones and the traditional tag to Barkley. But of course, if they did that, they would have had to backload the contracts like lunatics to build the rest of that team. Yeah.
I would also say that in the 4 years that Joe Shane has been here, or going into fifth year, like I am 99% certain that Saquon is the only person that Joe Shane has tried to work out a future contract with during the regular season. He didn't do it once this entire year when I have been screaming and would like to bang down his goddamn door and ask him why he didn't do it with Jermaine Illuminor, Cordell Flott, Wan'Dale Robinson, any one of these single players. He did not do it with Kayvon. He didn't do it with Dexter or Andrew Thomas. He did those guys. It was either over the summer or in like the spring season. He's just never been proactive. And maybe he just has a bad taste in his mouth from doing it with Saquon. But I'm like, for all the people who gave him a lot of shit, Saquon's the only fucking player in the 4 years that he's been here that he actually tried to do the right thing and sign during the season, where I'm like begging him to do that now. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you waiting? Driving up on the it's just so stupid.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting in a week, without question. Jason Daggy says Walker signing will be meh. In my opinion, Shane can spot running back talent for cheap. Rebuild these trenches into a strength. Walker has an injury history too. Don't see it. He doesn't have an injury history. He missed he missed 6 games in 2025. He played every game last year. He played 15 games in both his first and second year. We started 15 games his second year. I think he played 15 games. He didn't start all of them because he wasn't the starter. They had somebody else that started there. So I don't know that he has an injury history. It's not like he's missed a bunch of time every year, and he did play every game last year, started every game last year. So
the other thing I like about Walker, when you talk about like tread on the tire, just looking at his stats, when you talk about tread on the tires with a running back, he's obviously gotten a decent amount of carries, but they haven't run him into the ground because of the the platoon they've had there with the Seattle Seahawks. Right. He's never had more than, now of course this year they extended in the playoffs, so he had extra carries in the playoffs, but over the course of his career in 4 years, he's only had 821 carries. So it's not, I remember the year Barkley, didn't he have like 350 carries or something ridiculous like that the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl? So he hasn't been run into the ground because he hasn't been like a bell cow there. They've had a platoon with the Seahawks. So I think that's a good thing if they elect to sign Walker.
Yeah, so there they go. But to all your points, the Giants, John Harbaugh, the reason they brought in Greg Roman and the guys they brought in, Matt Nagy, is because they want to run the football. Yeah, and if you want to run the football, as much as I love Scatterbo and Tracy, it's nice to have a traditional number one back to go with those other guys. So. Maybe have a situation where you have, well, there's really not an earth, wind, and fire. I don't think I guess Tracy would be your fire, but I guess you could, right? Walker could be wind and Scat could be earth. I mean, you could do that, right? So,
why not?
It'd be fun to have that back. Alicia, thank you so much. Anthony, great point. Walker would cost $14 million per year at most. That's nothing for a number one running back with a cap rising, especially to help a wide receiver room get open.
Yeah, and when you think about it, look around the rest of the football field and all of these other positions. If a top 5 to 10 tackle hit the market, wide receiver hit the market, even safety, linebacker hit the market, you're paying a lot more than $14 million. Running back is the only position that's become so devalued that a top guy is only worth that much, and it's become a total bargain. So, again, a couple of years ago when Saquon Barkley was going for his contract, I was like reluctantly, I would pay him so that you could tag Jones because I was really against the Jones extension. So I would have paid him for that, but I didn't really want to pay running back then because I thought it was overvalued. But all of a sudden, the cap has gone up so much. The game has changed as much as it has over the last 2-3 years, and now it's different. And now I am in favor of actually paying one of these running backs because I think it's a really good deal.
Yeah. And the fact that you have Dart, I think it's important to have a strong run game to start his career.
Yes.
You think about Eli Manning, how important that was for him at the beginning of his career with earth, wind, and fire, like we're talking about. That's the best friend for a young quarterback. So I see the logic behind it if Harbaugh elects to do it. Or I should say Shane and Harbaugh elect to do it.
Again, if they do that, fine, but you got to build this lineup more.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Speaking of that, we should have brought up Illuminor. We were talking about that pre-show. The Howard got traded for, and as we were talking about, it's very comparable in terms of age, in terms of production. They're similar from what I've read. And Howard ended up getting a $21 million 3-year deal. So I think it's fair to assume Illuminor is going to be in that range. I think the Giants are going to have to be paying around that range if they want to keep him at right tackle, which I think they should.
Yeah. Well, again, the thing with Illuminor was, I don't know, man. We'll see what the hell they do. I'm very curious.
The other thing I read is there's rumors they may, or not, I don't know if it's rumors, but speculation that they could potentially cut. Well, and I think we've talked about this. I think it's Runyon, right, where they could save, I think it's like $7 or $8 million. I'm not in favor of that, though. I personally think they should keep him, but I've read that the Giants could potentially do that too.
I actually think that they should consider extending John Runyon because he's not even 30 years old yet. And the argument for cutting him is that you'll save $9 million against a cap, but then you have a massive hole to fill. It's not easy to find starting guards. And I get he's not a great player, but he's a good player. He's at least an average guard. And it's really hard to find average starting guards in the NFL. So I wouldn't cut him for the $9 million, but you can extend him and save $6.5 million for the next 2 years until he hits 30. I think there's an argument for extending Runyon rather than cutting him.
I agree with you. I'm a big proponent of continuity on the offensive line, and I don't want to see them break up the entire offensive line. I want to see them continue to build with what they have. Yeah,
without question, because it is hard to find linemen. So Again, you're not going to get great players at every position, but if you do have great players around guys, they're going to be a lot better. To John's point, I think the right side of our line is the one that's going to need the most work. You know, you got Thomas over there. I don't know what they're going to do at center. I do think somehow Linderbaum is going to find his way here.
I think we're getting Linderbaum. I really think so. But I think it's going to be a bidding war, though. I think a lot of teams are going to be in on him. But
Linderbaum is going to have the ultimate say in where he wants to go. And if he wants to come to the Giants because he wants to play for Harbaugh and, he wants to play with Jackson Dart, I mean, who knows? But
I find it very interesting that he's not re-signing with the Ravens. Like, right. I would love to know the story behind that. And I think we'll find out soon enough. Like, does he follow Todd Monken? He might be going to the Browns. Like, that could very much be an option.
Possible. Yeah.
And, I'm really curious about the money because the Ravens said we offered him a market setting number that, like, if he comes to the Giants or goes to the Browns for something less than that, like, then I don't know, then it'll just be interesting.
I'm going to tell you what, though, I think at least for the Ravens, I think if he was going back to the Ravens, he would have been tagged because if he's 25 and he's one of the best players at the position in the league. The Ravens know by him hitting the open market, like, there's going to be teams in a bidding war and it's going to drive up the price. I think if the Ravens intended to keep him, now I'm not saying they wouldn't keep him if the market is lower than what Linderbaum may be anticipating. But if Linderbaum gets what many think he's going to get, I don't think he's going back to the Ravens because I think they would have tagged him to be able to have the power to negotiate.
Yeah.
In terms of the Linderbaum contract, though, I know the Ravens did offer him the market-setting deal, but what I heard was that the guaranteed money wasn't where he wanted it to be. So
similar to Saquon Barkley with the Giants,
Exactly. It's a positional value thing. It's the team wanting to keep the cap hits down and not wanting to pay the guaranteed money. But Linderbaum knows somebody else will give him the guarantees, so he's going to go test the market.
Yeah, it'll be.
Maybe it'll be us. We'll see.
I don't think it'll be us, though. Honestly, I don't think the Giants are going to. At one point, I really thought that they would. But as that money in the reports is going up to like $25 million a year, I just
25. That's what it's up to now. 25.
I saw the most recent report from Albert Breer said he could get $25 million per season. I think at that point, you're re-signing Illuminor and you're signing, with you believing the reports, Kenneth Walker. I think you go with that 2-for-1.
And you roll with JMS another year.
Yeah, JMS he's not terrible.
No, he's not terrible.
He's all right. So,
yeah, it's going to be interesting. A lot of different scenarios.
That's crazy.
We'll see.
Corp thinking about it, he says, look at our tight end room. Don't we still have Fidonie?
Yeah.
But he didn't play, and Bellinger's a free agent, so that tight end.
And so is Manhurts. So it's only him and Theo Johnson that are on the roster. And he barely played last year, Fidonie. He was like on the injury list every week. And I'm pretty sure he ended the season on IR.
Yeah. And let me add something, though, on Daniel Bellinger. I had Art Stapleton on my show last week, and he told me that he's got an inclination that Bellinger will be back this year because I guess during the Combine press conference, John Harbaugh was talking about the offense, and he let it slip. He was like, yeah, and, we might use the slot receiver position differently. We might line up Daniel Bellinger in that position. And then he kind of just kept rambling on. And Art Stapleton was like, Bellinger's not on the roster. Why would he mention him as part of the plans unless they intended to re-sign him? So, again, it was more speculation. It wasn't Art giving me an inside scoop, but he was saying it sounds like Harbaugh plans on bringing him back based on the way he spoke at the presser.
Well, and Bad Dog's favorite, Dunleavy, tweeted out today that he had the 5 free agents that he thinks the Giants are most likely to re-sign in that order. And Bellinger was number 1. And he said it's based on my opinion and also conversations that I've had with people around the league. So I would love that. Him, and you can still get Likely if you want. Like, who wouldn't want Likely, Belly, and Theo Johnson? I'd be pretty happy with that.
Belly's not going to cost anything.
Yeah.
I think I need to reverse that, though. I think I'm Ryan Dunleavy's favorite, just to be honest. Guy's an asshole. Corp, thank you again, buddy. He says, Judas sold out Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, yet Slayton and Hyatt combined isn't even worth 30 cents in copper pennies.
They make a lot more than that, but yes, I agree. They're not worth 30 cents in copper pennies. I agree with that.
boy, I saw both of those guys. I was on the Hyatt train forever, still believed, don't believe now. Said Slayton was going to get 1,000 yards, had the wrong receiver.
We all
I did pick Wandale to have a really good year too. I didn't pick him to have 1,000 yards, but I thought he'd be an X factor because I figured Slayton and Malik Neighbors would help him out, and Neighbors got hurt in game 3. I'm very interested to see what the hell Malik Neighbors comes back at. I still, we talk about alignment, we talk about Sonny Styles, we talk about tight ends. That wide receiver room sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what we're gonna do there. That is really, really freaking weak. That is a weak part of our team.
I agree. I really think we're going to build our team like the Chargers. Everybody was saying their receiver room was super.
True. That's the thing. They had no receivers.
I think they're going to build a team in a similar fashion to the Chargers.
And
we have
tight ends. You could use the tight ends for that. To Anthony's point, you can use them as your number 2 receiver, your slot receiver, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then Theo's got a lot of talent. He just doesn't catch a fucking ball.
Yeah.
This receiver class is also pretty loaded in the draft. I think there's going to be like legitimate starters that you might find on day 3 this year.
They'll get somebody. It's at some point. Probably won't be the first pick, but I'm sure they'll address it somewhere down the line. Kevin, thank you, buddy. Sign a running back, give Tracy snaps in the slot. Thibodeaux should be to Chicago for DJ Moore due to the abundance of offensive riches and the need for a pass rusher. Immediately address the wide receiver 2 hole. Blake Miller to replace Illuminor.
I don't know how I feel about DJ Moore. I see a lot of fans mention DJ Moore. He still has a ton of guaranteed money still left on his contract from what I understand. So that'd be a really tough one to inherit. You'd have to rework that deal completely to try and lower those cap hits. I think his cap hit this year is like $28 million. And the idea behind trading away Thibodeaux is to lower the cap hit, not elevate it. And again, I know you can rework Moore's deal, but I think you're talking about pushing a lot of money into the future. But I like DJ Moore, but also he gave up on that play in the playoffs, and I think that's why the Bears got sent home. So that was strange. And I don't know. I don't want to replace Illuminor. I just want to re-sign Illuminor.
He's also approaching that age where, like, wide receivers traditionally usually, obviously they can still be productive into their 30s, but they usually start to tail off on the wrong side of 30. Like you said, with the money he's making, Anthony, I'd rather draft a receiver than trade for a guy like DJ Moore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, here's a ton of – go ahead, Anthony.
I do like the idea of putting Tracy in the slot sometimes, though, because I think that's an element of his game that just has not been emphasized enough. The fact that he's a converted receiver. He had a couple drops throughout the first couple seasons of his career. Maybe that's why they haven't emphasized his role as a receiver enough, but I think that they should. I think that they should have him just kind of be, because when we drafted him, it was like, oh, this kid could be this Deebo Samuel-esque player, but they never really line him up out wide. They don't give him any screens on the bubble. They don't put him in the slot. I think that they should. They should use him as more of a gadget piece, especially if they're going to invest in a Kenneth Walker. Tracy can really move all over the offense and make plays at more than one level.
I think that's very possible. They will use him a lot more as a receiver if they upgrade the running back room for sure.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. He ain't going to cost you anything, and he was a wide receiver in college, so why not? Prentice J, thank you. At this point, with our 5th pick, I'm just like, pick the BOP, the best Ohio State player available. Really, they could legitimately have 4 Ohio State guys going the top 5 picks.
Yeah.
Marco Reese, Carnell Tate, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles. They legitimately could all go top 5, as crazy as that shit is. But that's why Ohio State is who they are, man. It's, team's really good collegiately, without question.
And I'll say Carnell Tate's really good. I've been watching a lot more of him over the last couple of days. He's a really good player. I would like the idea of him paired with Malik Neighbors. I want Sonny Styles more, but if the Giants take Carnell Tate at 5, I'll be pretty happy about that too.
Yeah, if Sonny Styles been 4, and they have Carnell Tate as their BPA. Again, we have no receivers. I mean, they don't have anything. Wandale's a free agent. You have Malik coming off the ACL. You got Darius Slayton. You got Jalen Hyatt. You got Bo Collins. They certainly need to address the position in the offseason. Yeah. It's just a matter of how they do it, but they certainly need to address it. Yeah, I don't know. But with that said, that brings us to the close of another edition of Giants Collective. As always, We appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. If you could hit the thumbs up and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, that would be greatly appreciated. You can check us out on TikTok and Instagram and wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, and of course, Apple. If you listen to us on Apple, if you could leave a 5-star review, that would be helpful. We got one under the gun here. Bear, thank you so much. Says, how things are turning out now. Do you think the wide receiver position will be a main focus? Harbaugh past teams, to me, never really had an elite wide receiver. Do you think a wide receiver is a main focus for this team? I just mentioned that.
Yeah, I honestly
focus, but it needs to be a focus.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be the main focus for everything I expressed throughout the show. I think it will be a focus, and I don't think they will ignore it. Like Anthony said, they may take one day 2, early day 3. They may try to sign, decent receivers in free agency, but I think the primary focus is going to be bulking up the offensive line, getting better against the run with the linebacker position. And it seems like running back, I think they want to have that type of identity of a football team. So I think it'll be a focus. I think they'll address it, but I don't think it'll be the primary focus.
Yeah.
I think they'll address it with more accessory complementary pieces. As much as I like Carnell Tate, as I just mentioned, I can't really see them going with the wide receiver 1A, 1B strategy. It just doesn't seem like a Harbaugh thing to do.
Right. No, I agree. He's a guy that wants to build defense and run the ball. So as much as Carnell Tate would look really good in Giants blue, again, it just doesn't seem like it's a traditional Harbaugh thing to do. And I don't think that they'll do that, but
at least year 1, they may very well do it year 2, but I think year 1 is going to focus on.
He's going to focus on building the trend
line, get the run game established for Dart to make his job easier. That's what I think the plan is.
I totally agree. All right, so with that said, that'll bring us to the close of another edition of Giants Collective. So we appreciate you tuning in again. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, ring the bell, tell your friends about it. We'll probably have a show Thursday, I guess. Now we've been doing one a week, but now that we're into the free agent scenario. And obviously after the free agency, we'll start talking about the draft. We'll probably do some mock drafts in this channel and whatever else. So tell your friends, subscribe, share it out, all that good shit. So probably see you on Thursday. For Roger, and Anthony and Entertainah, it is the Bad Day Dizzle. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. We out.